Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.
Yeah, oh yeah, what condition my condition was in.
Alon, who would you say was hornier? Jed York going to the trailer park for $160 to meet up with a prostitute, or Tony Romo when he was watching Dolly Parton at halftime a couple years ago?
Oh, gosh. Great. I'm not going to speak ill of the dead or Tony Romo.
Of course.
Whose career in the booth might be dead, but we don't know about that yet. Not 100% sure. Definitely Jed York. The man's a billionaire, right? I haven't checked his exact net worth, but he's an NFL owner. And you're going to the trailer park. Like, that's bargain bin discount. Like,
yeah.
I don't know, man. Just, is that what? Maybe that's just how he likes it.
Maybe it is, but it's incredibly embarrassing. We'll talk about it. And of course, I'm not speaking ill of the dead. Dolly Parton, a trailblazer, rest in peace. What she meant to women everywhere. The theme park, Dollyland, all the music she's had over the years, all the covers I didn't realize that she was connected to. Whitney Houston's "I Will Always Love You" from The Bodyguard. She's singing the original version of that. I grew up with, you remember the movie Bulworth, where Warren Beatty's like the rapping politician? There was a song from that soundtrack called "Ghetto Superstar." From one corner to another. That's an originally a Dolly Parton song. Oh, it's Dollywood. My bad. Not what did I say? Dollyland? No, my bad. Dollywood. Apologies. Anyway, Dolly Parton, amazing. So rest in peace to her. She passes away at the age of 80. Also, very sad, passed away today, Tim Curry. I grew up with him in so many different movies. His biggest role probably Rocky Horror Picture Show. He was the clown in that. I grew up with him in Muppet Treasure Island, being Long John Silver. The man could sing and he could act. He's basically a bad guy in every movie. He was the evil bellhop in Home Alone 2. So rest in peace to both of them. Passed away the last 2 days. And we didn't talk about this either, Alon. I think it was a couple weeks ago. Obviously, they lived full lives at 80 years old. The most tragic, in my opinion, Hayden Panettiere passing away a couple weeks ago at the age of 36. Terrible.
Yeah, I still don't know. Like, not everything's out on that.
All the details there, yeah.
Yeah, not all the details are out there yet, but she's still super young. And I think she leaves behind her child who she had with Vladimir Klitschko, who's former heavyweight champion of the world and all that kind of stuff in boxing. So, yeah, just super, super sad. But, yeah, weird. A lot of deaths. And just to let everybody know, the reason I was gone last episode was because my dog actually died late last Saturday night, early Sunday morning. So my sleep schedule was so messed up. I wasn't able to get back on Sunday and like actually do a show. So just want to apologize for that, but I wanted to let everybody know, but doing well. And she lived a long life, but yeah, some legends and my dog all at the same time. It was like a vicious cycle. And Tim Curry is the best evil hotel man. The fact that he's going to like go after Macaulay Culkin for having a stolen credit card. I always found that so scary as a child. I was like, oh man, you could really get in trouble if you use someone else's credit card. So anyway.
Well, dude, real quick, I do want to acknowledge what you went through this past week. And condolences to you. You've had your dog for a long time now, so totally understand that you needed to take a day off. But rest in peace to your dog, man. Apologies for that.
Yeah, no problem. It happens, and it just came out of nowhere. But is what it is. And hey, you know what's great? We got some football that's right around the corner. That's what I'm happy about.
There you go. And I was trying to pull this clip up, Alon, but my internet, for whatever reason, I cannot pull up clips while I'm doing this podcast, even though I'm hardwired. The reason I bring up Dolly Parton with Tony Romo, do you mind pulling it up real quick? And again, this is not disrespectful. This is just showing Tony Romo, who's had a rough couple of weeks, I would say, since his DUI arrest. and the love of his life. No, I'm kidding. But Dolly Parton, he was definitely horned out during halftime of the Thanksgiving game between, I think it was the Cowboys and Commanders. Actually, don't know. I don't remember what it was a couple years ago. But here's Tony Romo when he saw Dolly Parton perform at halftime.
She was wearing the Cowboys cheerleading outfit.
Yeah.
You saw that coming, didn't you? You
I
said,
had-
I think she's going to go with a little cheerleading outfit tonight. And I was like, wow, it's pretty good.
What do you think we're going to see?
I mean, she looks amazing, right? I mean,
you never know what's
she's
going to happen
wonderful. Who doesn't like Dolly
here.
Parton?
No, she's absolutely an American treasure. That's for sure. And you,
Tony Romo couldn't contain himself. He was just, he was horny for a 77-year-old Dolly Parton. And you know what? She looked amazing until the day she died. So rest in peace to Dolly Parton. Rest in peace to Tim Curry. Rest in peace to Hayden Panettiere. And, of course, rest in peace to your dog, Alon. Should we talk about some hookers in Ohio?
Yeah, sure. In trailer park. I mean, this is the most. I hate this story because it's so bad, but I love it at the same time because it's absolute. What is up with these NFL owners? Robert Kraft likes to go to the rub and tug. Jed York likes to go to the trail. Yeah, let's talk about it, Derek. It's insane.
Let's do it. I mean, we'll talk some football tonight. Just your opinion, man. Alon to say, Derek Papa coming to you on a Wednesday night, and we are exactly 2 weeks away from the start of the NFL season. I cannot wait. We have one more week of preseason action, and we have stories, unfortunately, about owners in a sting operation when it comes to prostitutes. So, if you've been under a rock the last couple of days, the owner of the San Francisco 49ers, Jed York, was arrested for soliciting prostitution, I guess, or engaging. I guess the original charge was on Sunday. He was arrested for suspicion of engaging in prostitution. The charge was then amended to misdemeanor of disorderly conduct after York pleaded no contest to that, an additional misdemeanor charge for possessing criminal tools. And when you hear that, you're like, ooh, what does that mean? Criminal tools and just being juvenile. My first reaction was Dennis from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I need my tools. It's fetish shit. It's just a cell phone. What he used to make the transaction for was the tools. It's just a cell phone in this situation. So court documents reveal that Jed York responded to an ad of a known prostitution website in Columbiana County, Ohio, and arranged to have sexual activity with the female in exchange. There's a lot of things that are sad about this story, but this might be the saddest thing. In exchange for $160. That's it. Could have been $200. $200 was an option as well, but he wanted to go down a little bit. He was negotiating. York reportedly texted the contact number for the website 3 times before he received a response. Yikes. Jed was arrested at the Wheat Hill mobile home community. The arrest was part of a sting operation, wasn't even a real prostitute, and we saw it all on the body cam footage. We'll get to that a little later. Good Lord. The man that runs the mobile home community says the sting operation was not part of the community. They have an upstanding, great mobile home community, and he doesn't want Jed York involved in it. I know some people in the chat here, Ernie's saying 140. No, the actual reports are 160. If he had some other sexual activity, it could have gone up to 200. That's what Jed York settled for. So, look, it's undeniable that this story is funny. At the same time, it is extremely, extremely embarrassing for Jed York. And when I saw this story on Monday morning, I was like, my God, this is insane. I am shocked, but also not really, because I think billionaires engage in this type of behavior. I'm not going to say all of them do. I'm not going to say every NFL owner does this. You brought up Jed York, Alon, and I get why you would compare it because it's kind of a similar situation. Years ago, I want to say the day of the AFC Championship game when the Patriots were taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars, Robert Kraft was caught, I believe in Jupiter, Florida, at a rub and tug where he was engaging in sexual activity with a masseuse, and the place got raided, and he was busted. And me and Steven have discussed this. Steven has a different, perspective on this whole thing. I saw it as a lonely 77-year-old man who lost his wife engaging in sexual activity for a fee. Now, however you feel about prostitution, that's your own thing. There's a lot of serious things going around in this country and overseas when it comes to trafficking. So that's obviously extremely serious. I don't know what went down with Robert Kraft, but in the end, he was not charged. He was arrested, but not charged. And the NFL said, no harm, no foul. This is different with Jed York, where he wanted to engage in sexual activity. It wasn't real. The police caught him on his way to meet the prostitute, and it's done. The case is closed. He went to jail. He'll serve his day in court, I believe. I'm not so sure about that. I have to know all the legal proceedings and whatnot. The NFL is going to look at this. The 49ers released a statement. The NFL released a statement. So this is extremely embarrassing for Jed York, and we'll talk about the impact it will have on the football team, which I think will be little to nothing.
Yeah.
But yeah, you have to believe that all the details here. You're just shocked that Jed York would engage in this. Not to mention the fact that he did divorce his wife back in May. I'm sure he's going through a rough time. It sounds like he's living in Ohio right now. That's where the DeBartolos are from initially. But yeah, this story is hilarious for us, but for him, and I do feel bad for Jed York to some degree, this is extremely embarrassing.
Super embarrassing. Man is a billionaire. He's part of a very wealthy family. AJ Cruz sums it up here, because this was the first thing I thought about today when I read the story. I went, well, we know one thing about Jed York. He's a cheap bastard. I mean, $160 is really, bargain bin when it comes to prostitution, I would think. Yeah. I don't get it. This guy is so wealthy. He could have went on, Instagram or Twitter and just met some model. And, not that I'm saying that you should do that or anything like that, but $160 at a trailer park, Jed, what are you doing? And the other thing it made me think of was kind of like, I don't know if you remember the SpongeBob episode, Derek, but
I love where you're going here.
It's this one where Mr. Krabs, they find out that he likes to go eat chum, at this old, chum shop on the side of the road. And it's super cheap and down and dirty. That's what Jed York is doing. He's going to get his chum on the side of the road. So I don't know why he just, also responding to an ad, all these things is highly embarrassing. It's not going to impact the football team at all, but it might impact his standing with the other owners in terms of, how much pull maybe that team has about not doing certain things, i.e. being on Hard Knocks. I don't know. This is not a good look, especially with the history of the DeBartolo family and now this. And it's just what the hell is going on? I don't know why he did it. I know why he did it, but I don't know why he got to that decision-making process of, this seems like a good idea. This totally is legit. A $160 ad for sex on Craigslist or wherever the hell he went. I don't know where he went. I just don't, Derek, I don't get it. And the fact that it's a trailer park makes it even better, because that's the cherry on top.
Yeah, to say the least. Yeah, when you see all the details or you hear all the details when it comes to this story, the 160 part in trailer park, you're thinking, well, what kind of people is Jed York, I guess, into? Or what kind of sexual, honestly, not to judge too much, but is he meeting a prostitute that has her teeth? I'm sorry, me and Adam Copeland were talking about this on the radio, and again, we're trying to be very sensitive about it too. But Ray Ratto was on with us the other day, and he was like, "This is undeniably funny." It is. Nobody was hurt in this situation except the reputation of Jed York, and I'll get to that. As far as the football team, it impacts them 0%. I thought that Jed York did a fantastic job the last 10 years staying out of the way. And I think the best owners in sports don't meddle. They let their coaches and GMs handle everything football-wise. So the way that Jed York handled things with Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch was fantastic. He would pop up every now and then to be supportive of the team, tweet out something, or do an interview right before the Super Bowl saying, Brock Purdy needs to make this amount of money. But when it comes to this, this hurts the football team, where the the head coach has to answer for things. I don't know when John Lynch is going to speak next, but I'm sure he'll be asked about it. And I thought that Kyle Shanahan did a fantastic job. He didn't poo-poo it or anything. He didn't say, I'm not talking about that. He acknowledged the question, and he said, Jed York has been obviously very important to me. And this is a very personal matter, and I'll leave it at that. And the truth is, this is not going to affect the football team. Is it outside noise? Yeah, but like the same thing with Mike Vrabel and Diana Rossini. Like, that's not the reason the Patriots are going to lose football games this year. Like, I always think it's lazy when the media, and I'm part of the media, so I'm a part of it too, but I think it's lazy when the media does the thing of, if they start losing games, is it because of this? No, it's not. It's not impacting football games. Because Diana Rossini and Mike Vrabel hooked up, that's not the reason they're going to lose games this season. Because Jed York decided to spend $160 to meet a prostitute, that's not going to be the reason why the 49ers lose football games. Like, I'm sorry, like that's not a reason. It'll be because they got injuries, or their wide receiving core is too banged up, or they're too old, or whatever it may be. It's not going to be because of the situation. It's not going to be because Kyle Shanahan got into a car accident either. Like, those things don't impact the football team. If this has happened for years, where owners have stolen the headlines. Al Davis suing the league for not being able to move to Los Angeles in 1980. They won the Super Bowl. 2017, when Robert Kraft was busted for going to the massage parlor, they went to the AFC Championship game and won and lost the Super Bowl. It did not affect the football team. The owner sometimes is out of sight, out of mind. And that's the way Kyle Shanahan described it. Like, yeah, he's been living in Ohio, and that's the way we handle things. When he comes back, I'm sure he'll, do some PR stint and say that I have to step away from the team. I'm going to sex rehab, whatever it may be. But it's not going to impact the football team. And it's really not going to impact Jed York's standing with the league, in my opinion. Yes, the NFL probably will suspend him for the remainder of the season. I don't think that's that big of a deal. It will be a big deal if they win the Super Bowl and he can't be there to hoist the Lombardi Trophy. That will be devastating, because he's waited for that a long time, and obviously the history of the DeBartolos and wanting to do that for his uncle. Totally understand that, but he got himself in this mess, and I think he's going to have to stay away from the football team. As far as his place, like, he wasn't there today with the owners when they were having their meeting in Atlanta, and they ruled on a lot of things. We'll get to that stuff, but I think at the end of the day, it's going to be very hypocritical, I think, of all these billionaires to be like, caught with a prostitute and we don't want him around anymore. Now, under the circumstances of how it went down, it's extremely embarrassing, and they may be like, just go away for a little while. Or maybe we don't want you around anymore because this is embarrassing. But I think Jerry Jones, I think all of, the heavyweights that are part of that boys club will be like, the 49ers make money for our organization, or the 49ers make money for the league. We're not going to kick out Jed York. It's just where he's got to stay away for a little bit of time. They support their own. They're all connected with each other. I don't think that Jed York is going to have to sell the team by any means. No. I just think that he's going to be punished for this season and go away, and then he'll come back. But I don't think it's going to impact – it's going to impact his legacy, because people are going to mock him for that the rest of his life, unfortunately. But as far as his standing as an owner in the NFL, I would be very surprised if he's kicked out of the league.
No, he's not going to get kicked out of the league. I always think there's these little lumps you have to take after something like this happens, and he will have that. So it probably will be the owners being like, just don't come to the meeting this month, or whatever the case is, right? But they're still a great partner, the Yorks are, and so are the Niners, in terms of making money for the league, and that's what matters at the end of the day. And he pleaded no contest. It's not like he's going to prison or anything like over this stuff. It's just super, super embarrassing. That's kind of the crux of it. So, and yeah, it'll be a little rich if some of them decide to pot shot at him, because that could be hypocritical of them too, because we don't know what kind of skeletons a lot of the other owners have buried in the closet, whether it's public or not. About the other point regarding, does this stuff impact the team? I don't think so. If anything, it's a little bit of a nuisance maybe for Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, who might have to answer a question or two about it. Yeah. And Kyle Shanahan, who has had to. But other than that, like, this is not going to impact the way they play. I completely agree with you there. Same kind of narrative regarding the Diana Rossini, Mike Vrabel thing. That would at least maybe impact the team a little bit more just because he's the coach and maybe was distracted. But let's not pretend like other coaches around the league are not distracted by other things as well. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're cheating with a reporter or anything like that, but distractions happen. That just happened to be Mike Vrabel's. And guess what? They went to the Super Bowl last year. So I guess the distraction wasn't that bad. Now we just know about it and it's public. If they lose games, it's not because of that. It's because Drake May regresses or, something doesn't go right with their running game, whatever. Their defense isn't as good. So I don't think the Niners are going to have a problem with this season. It does suck for Jed reputationally, and if they were to get a Lombardi, if they were able to win the championship, I would hope that the NFL would not bar him from being there and doing that. That would really suck. And I would hope that they would let him take part in that. I don't know though.
I would doubt that. I think at this point he's just a pariah, unfortunately, for this season.
Yeah.
And he'll have to do some PR work. Like the mugshot's damning, man. Like he's just kind of, disheveled, and obviously he never looks good when you're arrested, but it's Jed York. Like, I'm not going to say like he's one of the biggest owners in the NFL, but like when you say his name, he had, I don't know, I guess a little respect, and people can, laugh at that, the way it was handled with Jim Harbaugh once upon a time. By the way, that is one of the first things I thought of, is how is Jim Harbaugh reacting to this? And do you remember that clip about like 10 years ago when Jim Harbaugh's at Michigan and he's interviewing Jameis Winston and giving him advice on how to be a better professional once he gets to the NFL level? The first thing I thought of when it came to Jed York getting arrested and Jim Harbaugh's reaction, I go back to that clip of him asking Jameis Winston, so what are you sex addict? You addicted to sex? You addicted to sex?
I forgot about that clip. What is wrong with Jim Harbaugh? He's a character.
Yeah, and I'll agree on that one. You addicted to sex? You sex addict? And again, like whatever circumstances it was for Jed York to be in that situation, like it's crazy. It's absolutely nuts. But I'm not naive. I think that, it's a bad look for the organization, and Al Guido will be a good spokesman for the team going forward. He was there today to represent the 49ers for the owners' meetings. It's not going to impact Kyle Shanahan. It's not going to impact John Lynch. It's not going to impact the football team. It's going to impact how we view Jed York, but I still think at the end of the day, he's going to survive all this. He's not Jerry Jones, but Jerry Jones is a powerful man, and he's had a ton of accusations in his time being owner of the Dallas Cowboys. He's still there because the other owners love him, and they all have dirt on each other. So this is just public. And I wonder if Jed York would ever get retaliation if he was pushed out of the league. But I don't know. The bottom line is this is extremely embarrassing. There's no other way to say it. It's hilarious for all of us, but this is Jed York's life. And he has kids, and I do think about that. So it is unfortunate that they have to go to school and they have to deal with this story. It's unfortunate. But I do think he's going to survive all this in time. And you know what? Some people will be like, that's not fair. That's not how the real world works. They don't live in the real world. This is the NFL. They're men with power. And you know what? I don't like that, but that's just the way it is. So, I don't think anything's going to come of this. Pun intended. Now, the body cam footage. And I did see Rocket New Era bring this up, and I can't find the text real quick, so I'll just bring up what he said. How come we haven't seen the body cam footage of Kyle Shanahan? Good question. I don't know how often the public gets access to crashes, but that is a good question. I don't know that. But we did get the body cam footage of Jed York. And it's not like anything super embarrassing, but I will say, like, he's dressed like you or I would be on the weekend. He's wearing a Yankees t-shirt. He's wearing shorts. It's like 9 a.m. in Ohio. He's driving around, and he seems shocked that the police are pulling him over. And he's like, is there a reason for this? And they pull him out of the car. I only think that, I don't know, I really don't know the protocol when it comes to that stuff, when it's a sting operation, but they pull him out of the car. They slap the cuffs on him. I think he acts surprised, but he knows why he's getting arrested. And the most damning thing to me in that whole video is they have him in the car, and they're still mic'd up. You can hear everything. They pull the cash that was in his pocket, and they're like, man, this guy must be a real estate dude. And they're like judging him, saying, why would a dude like that do this? Why would he put himself in this situation? You don't have to do this. Like, to your point, Alon, like, he's a billionaire. I'm not going to condone prostitution or anything, but like, it seems like you could have gone a little more high end. Like, if you know the Wolf of Wall Street, the blue chips, like you could do a fancy prostitute, I guess. But again, I'm not trying to condone that. Like, whatever. The bottom line is, all these details are just extremely embarrassing for Jed York. And I don't know if he could shake this as far as the public perception of him, but as far as him being an owner, unless he steps down on his own accord, I think he'll be fine. It's just a funny and unfortunate situation that we've been talking about for the last few days.
Yeah. I will say this. He could have flown out to Las Vegas. We have brothels right outside of Vegas.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, that are legal, completely legal. Now they're not $160. I know that. They're more expensive for sure. But
you seem to know a lot about these brothels, Alon. No, I'm kidding.
I mean, it's a kind of an important, economic thing to know about here. No, but he could have went to Europe. I think there's countries over there. I mean, he could have done a lot of different things.
Yeah,
$160. That is the very embarrassing part. And yeah, to have the cops kind of clown you as well is also pretty embarrassing. But yeah, no, he's not going to get booted from the league, and he shouldn't step down. This is what Jed needs to do. Eventually, he just need to really, like what you said, do a PR tour, but it needs to just be like, I'm sorry, I'm an idiot, and I own up to it, and I'll try to not do things like that anymore. Well, I don't know, because that's the thing. It's like,
yeah,
he's not gonna. He is gonna say, I'll never do that again, but you never know. So I don't know. It's such a crazy thing, and not to like compare anything, but it is just so different. So like we see Mark Davis sometimes in the stands with absolute gorgeous women sometimes.
Yes,
right?
we do.
Yes, we do. And no headlines about that. And then we see Jed York going down to the trailer park.
I know
they're just friends. They're just friends, Mark Davis and those women. Yes.
I know what you're insinuating, and I don't think you're wrong there. However, Jed York was caught. Yes. Red-handed, or however you want to say it. But I hear you. It's just also like the perception of the DeBartolos. Like, if you don't know the history there, Eddie D, fantastic owner. I mean, Jed's uncle, owned the team for years in their heyday when they won the 5 Super Bowls. And he got caught, I think it was 1999, where he's trying to get a casino built in New Orleans. And he tried to pay off a politician. That politician was wearing a wire, and he had to give up the team. And he gave it to his sister Denise, and she gave it to her son Jed. And I do wonder, Adam Copeland brought this up the other day, I do wonder if Jed is going to sound like terrible because he's a 40 or 50-year-old man, whatever he is right now, if he would have to give it up and let his parents take over, or like the parents are going to punish him for what he did, because he owns the team, but it's a family thing. So I wonder if Denise takes it on again, or I really don't know the ramifications of all that. But yeah, I've said it over and over again. It's embarrassing. It just, bottom line, everything. It makes him look cheap. It makes him look kind of dirty and creepy and perverted. Yeah, it's bad. It's bad. But if he wants to, and if the family wants to, I think he will survive this.
Yeah, I think he'll survive, but totally dirty, creepy, perverted, 100%. Unfortunately, now we all know, and we know he's very cheap. So, that's just it's a crazy thing to know about Jed York. And, it's okay, Jed. You can still hang out with beautiful women. Just be their friend. Don't pay them for anything. Be like Mark Davis. He hangs out with great looking models or whoever they are, doctors, whatever. And, they're friends, and they treat each other nicely. Not going to trailer parks or anything like that. So come on, Jed, be a upstanding member of the community.
There you go. And also don't fall for weird, I don't think it was on Craigslist. It was on a prostitution site, but don't look up prostitutes on the web on the internet. That's insane.
Probably a
Anyway,
bad idea, right?
Yeah, it's a bad idea. It's a terrible idea.
What do you trust more, phone book? Sorry, Derek, phone book or internet?
When it comes to prostitutes, dude, I don't even trust Craigslist on like, hey, I'm moving a couch.
Yeah, no.
Or like I need like a TV or something. Like, yeah, like the whole thing is weird to me. You live and you learn. There you go, Jed. I will say this spawned a ton of great fantasy football names. Like I was kind of like thinking of like, what should I do for my fantasy football league this year? What team name should I give my team? And I think everybody was like, bingo, Jed York. I'm going to use my profile picture is going to be him in the jumpsuit. And there's been so many. You could do, of course, my dad's call. The first touchdown of the 2022 season with Debo, San Fran Seaman. You could do Bang Bang Niner Gang or Bang Bang Hooker Gang. Of course, I'm going with, remember when Jed did his press conference and he dismissed Jim Harbaugh as head coach, and he said, I want a guy that's going to, represent the organization with class, winning with class. You could do winning with ass. And there's that.
Oh, I like that. Winning
Yeah,
with
there
ass.
you go. So anyway, jokes aside, very embarrassing for Jed York. I keep saying that, but I can imagine how I would feel if I was in this situation. But then again, I would never put myself in this situation. So, yeah,
You have
unfortunately.
better taste.
I like to think so. The best response to this whole thing, I'm surprised he actually brought this up. Marcus Thompson, writer for The Athletic. He went on with Murph and Marcus the other day, and he goes, I'll tell you this. If I was going down for this, and I never would, but if I was going down for this, you best believe I'm not spending $160.
Shoot. Think about this. The fine is more than he was spending on the prostitute.
Yes.
Which is crazy. And
It
the
is
fine's
crazy.
only like $1,000 or whatever.
Exactly. Anyway, let's move on from this because it's not a football story. It's just
No.
an amusing. I don't even want to say sexy. It's a titillating. It's a titillating story. In the words of Rick Tittle, it's a titillating story. All right. Something that was scary Sunday was Ashton Jeanty and the injury that he sustained. Now, when this was initially reported, people were freaking out, losing their minds, and I always like to take it with a grain of salt when it comes to reports on social media when it comes to training camp injuries, because I've seen it so often, and I think some people, not a lot of people, but I think some people kind of milk it. I think, especially with the 49ers, I think that how nervous a lot of fans are and the substation talk, when someone gets hurt during a practice, there's a lot of, ooh, the cart's coming out. Like we saw day one, Romello Height. Ooh, cart's coming out for him. He was cramping. Like there's different situations for why a cart would come out, or a guy goes into the medical tent or goes to see the trainers. I think some reporters milk it. I'm not saying that's what happened here with the Raiders, but this was kind of overblown in my opinion. So on Sunday, Ashton Jeanty collided with a defender on the Raiders indoor practice facility because they were practicing at a later time. And as you've told us, Alon, they usually practice early in the day because it's so damn hot.
Mm-hmm.
So reporters say Jeanty couldn't put any weight on his leg, and it was believed he had a torn ACL. Some people were just going with that story. He needed help off the field. The team cut the music off. They huddled up, and they had a team prayer. And whenever you hear that, you're like, ooh, he might be done for the season. And I was like, let's hold on here. Like, I always don't want to just take the cheese when it comes to training camp injury reports. So hours later, it was reported that Jeanty suffered an ankle sprain. Now, when you hear that, you're like, that's it? Now, high ankle sprain, low ankle sprain, there are differing degrees of an ankle sprain. It could be severe, but it also says that we don't know how long he's going to deal with this injury, but it's not considered long-term either. So just your reaction to this, Alon, because I think that sometimes it's overblown with media reports when it comes to injuries. But the way it was reported and the way that the Raiders reacted, it seemed like they thought themselves it was a torn ACL and they got the best case scenario.
Yeah, no, it seemed like they were shocked when it happened as well, because, and I think the key thing was not just the report, but from what the team saw there as well at practice, was he could not put any weight on it. And usually it's like, oh man, that's not good. But we also know that can happen with a severe sprained ankle or even a kind of a medium grade sprained ankle. So apparently that's what it is. It seems like there's nothing wrong with his knee. I mean, we still don't have like the official diagnosis yet and whether he's going to be ready for week 1 or anything like that. But they seem to be, Clint Kubiak said this, he's on the mend.
Yes.
So that seems to be that he's pleased enough with the fact that, or relieved that he's not going to have some crazy kind of surgery situation or anything going on that could be lingering with his knee. Now he could have something lingering with his ankle now, and it's going to call into question what his workload might be. So good for them that they seem to have found a diamond in the rough in Mike Washington.
Yes.
But I would be very cautious with him. I mean, I don't think he's going to be anywhere near the field during the preseason game tomorrow against the Niners. And I don't
Talk about Jeanty?
Yeah.
Oh, no. Yeah.
No. Like, I don't even mean like not playing. I mean, like, if he's even on the sideline, he's going to be far away so no one could even like run into him or something like that is what I'm saying. Like,
okay.
He's going to be in bubble wrap because he's very, very important for this team. So I think they're going to handle it the right way, but I think they realize that they probably dodged a major, major bullet that could have been really bad, because if he goes down, then you're putting all your hopes in a rookie. And that's kind of what the team did last year with him. And it's not always the best idea with a rookie running back. But I will say this. I think what Clint Kubiak said was very telling. He's on the mend, kind of tells me that if it was worse, I think Clint would have addressed it. And since it's not as bad as what was initially reported, I think on the mend, he's trying to basically say, like, I would like him to be ready for week 1, but we'll see where it is when we get to that point. So
yeah, Clint was a little brief with his response when it came to the injury for Ashton Jeanty. So here's the full quote. Ashton got hurt in practice, and the whole team took a knee. I think that says a lot about him being on – I think that says a lot about him being on the mend and us counting on him. So really excited to get him back, and I'm a huge believer in the power of prayer. If you heard Clint Kubiak in his introductory press conference, he's a man of God. He's a man of faith. And I think that whenever it comes to an injury, he's going to want his team to do a prayer like that. So maybe it was a little more, I guess, dramatic than it needed to be. But then again, like when a guy comes off the field and he's not putting weight on his leg, it's concerning. And I think that this is the way that Clint Kubiak's going to address injuries going forward. It just, when it's the bell cow of your offense, presumably, you kind of want to downplay any injury because you're hoping he's going to be there. Like, think about what they have in mind this season for the offense. They wanted to run through Ashton Jeanty, and they want to do play action and throw to Brock Bowers. When you have a rookie quarterback, you want to run through, the guy that's going to hopefully one day rush for over 1,000 yards and be the next Marcus Allen or Bo Jackson. That's why you drafted him 6th overall. When you think about Clint Kubiak's offenses of the past, it's always been about the running game. So that's what he wants to do. That's what he did with Zach Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker in Seattle. That's why Kenneth Walker was MVP of the Super Bowl. He has that idea in mind for Ashton Jeanty. If he's not there, then the offense probably suffers. Even though he wasn't great last year and the offensive line couldn't block for him, but you're hoping that improves this season. So it sounds like Clint Kubiak's just going to downplay the injury right now. It's not that big of a deal. He does have a sprained ankle. Let's see when he comes back. But honestly, I wouldn't be the least bit surprised. We still got 2 weeks before the season starts. I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if Ashton Jeanty's out there week 1.
How similar do you think his reaction was to, because it's so, I know they're not the same guy, but it's very hard for me not to listen to him or watch him talk and take away some of the things and some of the ways that Kyle Shanahan describes things. I mean, very, on the mend, dealing with tightness, or, we'll look at, it's very, he's telling you something, but he's not just giving it all away kind of deal. It's very fascinating how similar they are.
Well, they both learned from their fathers and how to conduct the media when it comes to injuries. So I think that Kyle this year, has played it close to the vest more in years past. I think when a guy's hurt, he'll be honest and say, like, nah, he's going to be out for a little bit of time. And Clint probably will be that way too. He just doesn't know right now with Ashton, so he's not going to say anything. But he's going to go more on the positive side because that's the way this thing has been spun. But I'm not going to act like there's some conspiracy theory here where Ashton's actually really hurt and they're just kind of covering it up. No, I think that he has maybe a severe ankle sprain, but he's got an ankle sprain, not a torn ACL or anything like that. I think that our minds automatically go there now when it comes to training camp injuries because there's been so many. And you can speak to maybe the lack of practice when it comes to training camp now, with the new CBA. Like we saw Jamar Chase the other day catch a ball along the sideline and his knee buckled. And when you see the footage, you're like, that could be an ACL. But then he gets up off the field. He does like a radio interview. He says, no, it's good. They're just keeping me out. Like I watched Hard Knocks last night, and Mike McDonald says to Cooper Kupp before a joint practice with the Tennessee Titans that he goes, hey, dude, you don't need to practice. Like, you just been so damn good, and I would hate for something to happen right now. I don't want you out there. So I think that's happening more and more with veteran players. It's load management. Like, no one's talking about this. Everybody brings up, well, Mike Evans isn't practicing, or Christian McCaffrey, or Nick Bosa. Myles Garrett hasn't practiced in weeks because his knee has swelling. You really think that Sean McVay is concerned about that? No. He just doesn't want it to be more of an issue, so he's not going to push it. Puka Nacua sustained a groin injury. He just doesn't want him out there anymore. There's a certain point where you're like, what are we doing? I don't need you to practice. I just need you to show up week 1. That's all I need you for right now. And even the Mike Evans groin injury with the 49ers, Jeremy Fowler came out a couple of hours ago saying, like, it's not that big of a deal. They're just holding on to practice because he's 32 years old and they don't want him practicing all the time and then have that injury be something more. So he's not going to practice for the time being. He supposedly will be out there week 1. Nick Bosa taking the whole week off. He'll be back next week. I guess the point I'm making here is just, I don't know. I think I don't even know why I lost my train of thought there when it came to Ashton Jeanty. But when it comes to training camp, some coaches are just going to be very cautious. Like the irony, though, I brought up Mike McDonald in Hard Knocks saying, Cooper Kupp, we want you to sit this practice. Jake Bobo then gets more reps. And, of course, he was dealing with an injury himself, and the coaches were kind of pushing him, saying you need to have a little more edge to you. And sure enough, he tears his ACL, and he's out for the season. That sucks, but that's football, unfortunately. When it comes to the Raiders and Ashton Jeanty, they're just going to be cautious. He's probably not going to practice for the time being. And when he's healthy, they'll put him out there. But also, I'll say this, I think that Mike Washington looks pretty damn impressive in these preseason games. So, I don't know. I'll get to that in a little bit here, but your concern level along when it comes to Ashton Jeanty for this season?
Out of a 10, I would say probably a 4.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like 4 because, yes, it's concerning to have a guy who's going to be kind of the bell cow back go into the season with an ankle sprain. So you never really know if that's going to be something that bothers him all year. But, and that's why I would say a 4. The reason it's not any higher, though, is because, ankle sprains, they will heal up. It just matters on how much workload he gets. So if they do kind of keep him away for a little bit, there's a chance where he could get, much better, much faster. And I'm just happy that it's not an ACL or anything or any kind of major ligament damage, because if that was the case, that would be really tough. I would put it this way. If I was a Cardinals fan, I would be feeling the same level of concern for Jeremiah Love as well.
Right.
So it's like, yeah, am I concerned? Of course, I want him to be healthy. But am I concerned because it's like, oh, no, this is like going to screw over his whole season? I don't believe that at all.
No, me neither. I think it's like I'll say a 4 out of 10 as well. Like, I'm not that concerned. High ankle sprain, whatever it may be, I think that I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if Jeanty is available week 1. And I think that they're going to downplay the injury. I think that Clint Kubiak is using his words wisely and saying like he's on the mend. You may not see him practice up until maybe week 1 at this point because they just want to save him. That's why Kyle's choosing his words carefully too. Like knee tendonitis, he threw that out there, and some people are like, whoa, knee tendonitis, but I think that's common with ACL recoveries. And he was always honest about the Christian McCaffrey thing too. So yeah, I think that some coaches are just smart about the words they use when it comes to veteran players not practicing. And Ashton Jeanty hasn't been around for too long, but they're going to be very mindful in how they use him. So dodged a bullet big time when it came to what we thought the injury might be, but now it sounds like he'll be okay, and we'll see him hopefully sooner than later. Just going back to Thursday's performance, Alon, the Raiders come back and win that game against the Houston Texans, and the outcomes really don't matter in preseason. But just your thoughts on Fernando Mendoza and also Mike Washington. But first, Fernando Mendoza and his performance.
I thought Fernando still made some really good throws. I thought he was a little early on a few. There was like a hook route, back shoulder, kind of one to the far side of the field that he made. I forget who the wide receiver was. And he just threw it like a hitch or two early, and it kind of screwed up the timing of the play. If he would have held it a little bit longer, would have been okay. He did have a really nice pass to, I believe it was Jalen Naylor. Kind of similar concept to what he hit against Arizona. The interception was not good though. But not from the standpoint of like, oh my gosh, he had no idea what was going on. It wasn't good from the standpoint of he just held the ball way too long and then threw across his body over the middle. So I feel like that's one of those things that every single quarterback who's ever been in the NFL has done, Derek. Like, it just seems like a mistake that everyone makes at one point.
Yeah.
So he'll make it again for sure, because every quarterback makes it. But I think he'll realize what he did wrong on that. From a physical talent standpoint, though, he still looked okay. That second line, though, they can't protect. They just can't. And so I'm curious to see what he looks like with the starting offensive line sometime this season. But outside of him, I thought the receivers and Clint Kubiak kind of called them out.
Yep.
They did not do a good enough job breaking on time and getting to pockets of space. And that's going to be really important, whether it's Kirk Cousins or him being the quarterback, Fernando Mendoza, that is. The receivers need to settle down in space. Mike Washington made this mistake as well. So, like, it's not just the receiver. It's kind of everybody figuring out, here are holes in the zone, and I need to settle down right here to get the quarterback a target.
Yeah, I still don't think they have a true number one wide receiver. I know not the big money guy, but the guy that went out and got this free agency was Jalen Naylor. I don't know if he's a true number one. I don't know if Jack Bech is a number one.
Yeah.
Really, the number one option for the Raiders is Brock Bowers. And, they're relying on him, obviously, with Ashton Jeanty, but the wide receivers do need to step up. As far as Mike Washington, I thought that his run was really impressive. And you brought it, he's from Arkansas, right, Alon?
Played 1 year at Arkansas, yep.
Well, you brought it up, I think, two podcasts ago. He does remind me of Darren McFadden. The way that he has kind of that sprinter speed, the way that he runs, his elusiveness. And it's good. It's a good 1-2 punch combination in the backfield where I think Jeanty's more of the bruiser and Mike Washington's more of the burner. And if they do miss Ashton Jeanty for a few weeks, I'm not saying like he's the guy that needs to get the bulk of the carries by any means, but I don't think Mike Washington Jr. is a bad option here. So I would say there's things to be very impressed with when it comes to Fernando Mendoza, but I also say that Mike Washington so far has impressed me the most this preseason.
I think he's been the most impressive player on the Raiders this preseason, for sure. It's not close either. His ability to make guys miss in the hole, break tackles. I mean, just his yards per carry average is almost 8, which is not going to happen during the regular season. But, I mean, that's just unreal to have that kind of production. And, yes, he does have that sprinter speed. He runs with very square shoulders. He's able to be deceptive in a weird way for being so big. I mean, he's 6'2", 230, so he's not a small running back. But he kind of has that ability, like McFadden did, to run through and or kind of around while taking contact at the same time. So it's two very different styles of running back. I agree. I do think Ashton Jeanty wants to be healthy for sure, because Mike Washington, if he's this kind of running back in the NFL, will supplant him just because of the physical traits. I still think Ashton Jeanty's super talented and has things that are very special about his game that Mike Washington Jr. doesn't have. But sometimes all you need is speed and power, and Mike Washington has that, like, a boatload of it. So it's a really good combination for Clint Kubiak. At least it looks like it is so far. And the Raiders haven't had a 1-2 punch at the running back position since Darren McFadden and Michael Bush.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're right about that. Just real quick, Alon, did anything change your mind when it comes to the plan the Raiders have at quarterback. Because Clint Kubiak, when training camp started, said, right now Kirk's the starter until otherwise. There'll be opportunities for Fernando Mendoza, but Kirk's going to start training camp as the starter. And so I've heard some people say, the best course of action is Fernando Mendoza to start from the get-go. I think they're going to go, according to plan. The way that they've decided this whole offseason is Kirk's going to start the first few weeks of the season. Then Fernando Mendoza comes in. Has anything changed your mind in what you've seen from Fernando Mendoza in the preseason?
If anything, maybe that he just might need to play a little earlier, and not because necessarily I don't think he's shown it all during the preseason, but it seems to be his progression at getting better from practice to a game, to a practice, to a game. And even a game where he doesn't play very well, he still does things that are NFL caliber at the quarterback position. So if anything, I think they still stick with the original plan.
Yeah.
But maybe the timetable just gets sped up a little bit more, which for Mendoza could be a good thing, but it could also mean he gets thrown in, against the Chiefs October 4th or something like that, which would be week 4 of the season. I don't know, but I don't think the plan changes, Derek. I think they are very comfortable with Kirk Cousins starting the season. Now, if Kirk plays really well, then everything could change, but then there's going to be a point where Mendoza comes in, but that doesn't necessarily mean Mendoza will keep the job for the rest of the season. It's more about Mendoza at least getting a good enough amount of experience to get better. And if he has struggles, they might take him out to have him watch some more, because that's always something that can happen too. I don't think that once the change is made, it necessarily means it's permanent.
I would disagree with that one. I don't think they want to go back and forth with the quarterbacks. I don't think they want to do a Brian Flores situation with Tua and Ryan Fitzpatrick. I go back to when Eli Manning was named starter for the Giants with Kurt Warner, and Kurt Warner said, if you're going to start the kid, just start the kid and give him the rest of the season. Mm-hmm. So I hear you, Alon. There could be benefits of Fernando Mendoza just watching Kirk Cousins the first couple of weeks and seeing him struggle, how to be a pro about things. But once Fernando Mendoza gets his toe in the water and starts playing NFL quarterback for the Raiders, I think he has to stay.
Yeah, well, if he has to stay, then this is a very difficult schedule to stick him out in, and that's the kind of trepidation I have about that.
Well, okay, but would you say wins and losses are really important this first year under the Clint Kubiak regime?
I just think being competitive and having an operation function the way it should is what's important. And what I meant so much more was not about what's the realistic chance of Mendoza winning some of those games. For me, it's more like, damn, he's got to go against some teams that could obliterate him, depending if the protection's not there.
Right.
That's really what I worry about. And I'm not saying leave Cousins out there to get sacked like Geno Smith over and over again. But let's just say the protection isn't good. I don't want to see the number 1 overall pick that the team has invested so many assets in just going there and kind of getting the snot beat out of them. So that's what I'm concerned about. It's not so much about the wins or losses. It's more about what if he goes and plays the Patriots and they just tee off on him? What if against the Rams, it's Myles Garrett over here, and then guess what? Aaron Donald's back, and then boom, 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 and Mendoza's just on the deck every down. I don't want to see that.
No, I get it, but it's gonna be growing pains for Fernando Mendoza his rookie year. And tomorrow the Raiders take on the 49ers in preseason. I doubt you'll see anybody of significance. I don't think Stribling's going to be out there. I don't think Mendoza's going to be out there. I think for position battles, you'll see Jacob Cowing and other wide receivers for the 49ers, their backups. But you're going to see a lot of Adrian Martinez and really the Raiders, I guess, showcasing Aiden O'Connell because he looked pretty impressive in the second half of that Texans game. I don't know if they're going to carry 3 quarterbacks, but it may be where they're showcasing him. He plays all 4 quarters, and then someone makes an offer to be the backup quarterback. Real quick, Alon, would you entertain the Chargers making an offer for Aiden O'Connell because their backup situation is dreadful with Trey Lance and DJU?
No, but just purely because they're in the division. That's why. It sucks because I think that actually is a good situation for O'Connell. And I think there's a chance where he would have to play because Herbert back in college, especially, Justin Herbert used to get hurt all the time. And there would be a chance for him to really be successful and keep building his career there and then parlaying that into something else. But just from a standpoint of being competitive, I wouldn't trade him in the division. I just wouldn't. And it sucks for him. But I think he will land on his feet somewhere. I think he'll have a job somewhere. He's proven that at the worst, he can be a serviceable backup. And at the best, maybe a plug-in guy that can start, a handful of games, and who knows how much better he can get. I like Aiden O'Connell. I'm a fan of his. I'm just looking at the schedule again, though, Derek, about where I would plug Fernando in. And I've definitely updated it because I think, yes, they are going to probably play him earlier rather than later.
Yeah.
With the progress he's shown. I still kind of look at that Saints game, September 27th. I know it's on the road, but that might not be a bad spot to put him in because the Saints are good, but they're not world beaters. So it might be kind of a decent opportunity. And I know it's on the road, but I think that might be a better situation for Fernando. There's less pressure on the road than there is at home, actually.
Yeah. Was that week 3?
Yeah, that's week 3.
I'd still say that's probably too early. Like, I think that I think the Raiders should win that game against the Dolphins.
They will.
And then probably should lose to the Chargers. We'll see. But I don't think you should bench Kirk after that. I look at like week 6 against the Buffalo Bills and the Rams. And I know that that's tough, but dude, this is the NFL, man. Like, it is what it is. It's always going to be tough.
Yeah.
Like, yes, you could look at some of these opponents as cupcakes, but eventually, like, it's going to be tough. Like, in their own division, he's going to have to face Chris Jones or Khalil Mack or the Denver Broncos and Nick Bonito. Like, regardless, it's going to be tough for Fernando Mendoza. So we'll see what happens when it comes to the quarterbacks for the Raiders and the 49ers. I still think it's going to be 3 quarterbacks for the 49ers where they keep, obviously, Brock Purdy, Mac Jones, and Curtis Rourke. And then for the Raiders, I don't think they're going to keep Aiden O'Connell. I think that some team will be willing to make a deal for him. So we'll see what happens this weekend, as Cutdown Day will be on Sunday at 3 o'clock, and Alon and I will be live at 5 o'clock to react to all the news. Speaking of news, let's go around the NFL with some latest news. And the NFL owners' meetings took place today in Atlanta, and they came to an agreement on a few things. I had it written down here, but I guess I got rid of it. Hang on one second, guys. Okay, yeah, the NFL owners approved the dismissal of the Pro Bowl games. No more games, no more flag football, no more events. The league wants to focus more on the honor of the Pro Bowl selection, which means no more alternate selections. Yeah. So that will help a lot of guys that get that honor in their contract. Like if you hit a check mark, if you make the Pro Bowl. To me, the bigger honor at this point is making the All-Pro team. Sure. But yeah, at this point, it's your Pro Bowl selection. And no one gave a shit about the Pro Bowl games unless you're Greg Papa and you love the Pro Bowl every single year. I remember growing up and loving the Pro Bowl because it was your last piece of football, professional football, before we got to the offseason. There was a Super Bowl, and then they went to Honolulu, and everybody played in the Pro Bowl. But no one's doing that anymore. It's not like Jack Youngblood back in the 1970s where he plays a Super Bowl on a broken leg and then shows up the next week at the Pro Bowl with a broken leg. That's ridiculous. But it's the worst all-star game in professional sports. It is. So I don't think we need it anymore.
No, it's horrible. And especially over the past 5 to 10 years, especially, it's really bad. And then transitioning to flag football is god awful. I mean, it's unwatchable. I always thought, why not bring like a good skills competition back? Because even some of the skills stuff they tried to bring in, it's just not as good. It was way better when it was Hawaii and you got quarterbacks seeing like, how far can, I don't know, Jeff Hostetler throw it?
No, I mean, we still should have the skills competition the week of the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Like this year it's going to be in LA. So whatever, go to, USC's field or UCLA and have that competition. That'd be fun. The game itself, no one cares about the Pro Bowl anymore.
Yeah, no. The game itself, it doesn't matter. So it's going to be 88 players who get selected. So kind of doing the math there, all 11, one conference, all 11, the other conference. That's 44 players there. Then you have your special teamers, and I guess like kind of everybody's maybe got like a reserve behind them or something, how this works. So there's going to be some positions that are more represented than others.
Yeah.
But I'm there with you. This at least legitimizes the Pro Bowl a little bit more, because then it's not just like Shedeur Sanders is a Pro Bowler because we need Shedeur Sanders to get people to watch. Like, so we're not going to have that, which is a really good thing. But it's still not it's not nearly as prestigious as it used to be, and it's not as prestigious as the All-Pro team, because the All-Pro team really does decide, or is at least a very good metric or consensus about who is the best player at any given position. Whereas the Pro Bowl, it's kind of a popularity contest, but at least maybe the Pro Bowl will line up now with possibly the top 100 players in the NFL. Maybe that's kind of something they're aiming to kind of mirror a little bit. I'm not sure. I wonder what's going to happen to some of these guys who do get incentives for being reserves, for like Pro Bowl alternate guys.
Yeah.
That's all gone. But yeah, I'm glad the games are gone. I think the other thing they voted on too, Derek, at the meeting was the sale of the Seahawks, right?
That was official. That was
Yeah.
official, where one of the minority owners of the 49ers is jumping ship to go own the
Yep.
Seahawks. So that was made official. The other one today was they approved 5 categories of fouls: hip drop tackle, horse collar tackle, launching, illegal blindside blocks, and hits on defensive players will now trigger a suspension if a player commits 3 fouls in that single category. So if you're caught 3 times this year for doing all those things, you'll be suspended. Which, they've tried to enforce that more, the hip drop tackle, all that stuff. They say all that stuff, and they never really enforce it to the degree that we all talk about when the season starts.
Yeah.
We'll see, like, flags thrown, and you're like, that's a bullshit call when the season starts. But as the year goes on and the games are more important, I think that the referees will keep the flags in their pockets. But then again, you could see where guys get suspended because they're caught 3 times and 3 strikes, you're out. Last one here that they ruled upon today. The return of Hard Knocks, the off-season edition. And I'm excited about this because I think the Seahawks Hard Knocks going on right now is really good. But the best one of all time just happened a couple of years ago when the New York Giants were exposed to the rest of the NFL world of how they conducted themselves when it came to Saquon Barkley leaving in free agency and how they did other maneuvers that offseason. And they were criticized. Joe Shane was mocked. But I thought it was extremely fascinating because it brought you behind the curtain on a lot of things that I wasn't privy to before. Like when you bring in a new defensive coordinator, it's time for free agency. Is he a part of the meetings? Do you bring him in and be like, what type of players do you need? How do you go about the draft? How do you go about the Senior Bowl? All that stuff. So I thought it was fascinating, and I'm glad it's coming back. And it sounds like next offseason they're going to do it with a division, an entire division. So 4 teams will be impacted by that. And I'm sure some general managers and head coaches will be pissed off, but just being selfish in my entertainment, I'm looking forward to this. I'm excited.
I really like the idea of looking at a whole division too, because it doesn't just give you the one perspective of the one team. Instead, it shows you what actually is going on. This is a 4-team arms race, right? Because everybody is thinking about, how do I get better in my division? That's usually how you sort things out first. How do I get better in my division? How do I win my division? How do I become a good football team? So to see 4 different teams go about how they can outmaneuver the rest of their opponents in the division, how they can build their roster, how they do things in the offseason, I find that extremely fascinating. So I think that's a great decision. And it's more NFL content. And maybe this could be kind of a precursor to something else that might come up, whether we get something different than just this quarterback show and stuff like that on Netflix. Maybe we get something that's a little more behind the scenes during the NFL season. But that's all going to be contingent on how owners and coaches feel about cameras being everywhere 24/7, because they probably already feel like they're under a microscope. But I'm excited for that. I think that'll be cool.
Yeah, it will be. And I think that a lot of owners and coaches and GMs will hate this process. But if the league is pushing for it, then it's going to happen. And it is. It's going to happen next offseason.
Yeah.
As far as football stories, I brought this up last podcast, Alon. The comments Deshaun Watson made after his performance on Saturday, basically putting himself against the fans, saying that fan base, the last time I was out, rooted for my injury. And I came on here the next day saying, I think the Browns should move on from Deshaun Watson. But I also wasn't going to be surprised if he was named starter of the football team. Sure enough, on Monday morning, Tom Munkin came out and said, well, Deshaun, and to me, he sounds like Trent Baalke mixed with Joe Biden. The thing with Deshaun is he did some good things about, how he handled himself in training camp, and it's not all just contingent on that last performance. Deshaun Watson was named starter of the Cleveland Browns, and that's not surprising whatsoever when we've heard this entire offseason that Jimmy Haslam wants his money's worth, where he's in the last year of his contract.
Yeah.
If they cut him off the team, it's an $80 million cap hit. So I'm not surprised. And a lot of people are going to be like, God, the Cleveland Browns must hate their fans. They don't give a shit about their fans. They really don't. Like, they're trying to win later on, but they're trying to lose this season. And they're on the road the first couple weeks. Regardless, Deshaun Watson's going to get booed because I said this too, Alon, last podcast. He's an extremely unlikable guy. And it may be unfair to bring up all the stuff that happened off the field a couple years ago, but that's a part of the equation. It really is. And I'm not going to act like the Cleveland Browns fans had some moral obligation to boo him when he got hurt. I thought that was disgusting. But it wasn't about like them thinking like this guy's a creep. Of all the accusations, I don't want him on my football team. They booed him because he sucked. And the smart move would be to give Shedeur Sanders 17 games so you have somebody the fans like and you sell jerseys and you sell tickets. But I get it too. I know why they're doing this. It's stupid, but they're not trying to win this season. That's the bottom line.
No, they're not. And they don't give a crap about their fans. They really don't. Because if they did, they would have made all kinds of wholesale changes, and they just haven't. And Cleveland doesn't fire anybody. Like, it's horrible the way they run things sometimes. But with Deshaun Watson, they're married to that albatross of a contract that just hangs around their neck. And this is their probably last opportunity to figure out, is there anything inside there with Deshaun Watson that resembles what we saw 5 or 6 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Or even 7 years ago now. So they have to know. There's too much invested in him to let it linger where you don't find out. I have a feeling they're going to find out that he's kind of washed up. He's just not that guy anymore. He could prove us wrong, whatever, I'll eat crow over that. But he's shown nothing as a Cleveland Brown to indicate that he still has those abilities. He just hasn't. And they, like you said, if they cut him, it's $80 million down the tube. So even the most shrewd owner who'd be like, this guy just can't get it done, and is still going to see what he has because you're attached $80 million to it. For Shedeur Sanders, it sucks because he probably does need experience, because I think I'm not saying his ceiling is super, super high in the NFL, but what I'm saying is there's a lot of growth that can happen there. And so you at least have, you have a guy that you can find out how long could this guy be our starter for before we start planning for the future. Or maybe he's our starting quarterback for more than 2 or 3 years. Who knows? But that's not the direction they're going in. Todd Monken has been put in a really bad situation, in my opinion. But there's only so many of those jobs, right? There's 32 of these jobs. So you're going to take what you can get. But I'm not going to be surprised to see Deshaun Watson get benched. I don't know, maybe within the first 8 weeks, 9 weeks.
I'd say less than that. I think it's going to be a short leash, and I think that they want their fans to be happy week 3. I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if it looks like a shit show that Deshaun Watson's benched after the first 2 games.
Wow.
And Todd Monken's handled this like a pro, and not many guys were willing to take that job, but he took it because nobody else was calling for him to be a head coach. It might be where Todd Monken's the scapegoat of this whole thing, where he's brought in and people know that this job is not glamorous. You got to do what the owner wants. You got to play Deshaun Watson. You got to play Shedeur, and you're really trying to lose. Like you traded away Myles Garrett, and Todd Monken in that one presser where he's like, the guy asks him, "Have you talked to Garrett yet, Myles?" "No, why would I?" He's playing along. He knows what he has to do, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's on the chopping block, despite all the good deeds he's doing for the Cleveland Browns organization. In the end, they might push him to the side for a better opportunity, which is unfortunate. Other news that happened, we were talking about this once the A.J. Brown trade went down for the Patriots. Kayshon Boutte, the odd man out, he did get dealt. The Jaden Higgins torn ACL is extremely inconvenient for the Houston Texans. That's putting it lightly, with a young and upcoming wide receiver on their football team. So they go out and get Kayshon Boutte. He's traded to the Houston Texans. Not a bad destination for Boutte, who his career play at this point has been the one-handed reception over Derek Stingley Jr. in the playoffs. Now they're teammates.
Yeah, no, it's good for Boutte for sure, and it's really good for the Texans. I feel bad for not just Jaden Higgins, but for the Texans organization, because he's a guy who flashed a lot of potential, and just there's not too many 6'5" kind of that bodied wide receivers like that running around who can make all kinds of plays and who look like they're not just a flash in the pan. They're going to continue to grow. So hopefully for CJ Stroud and the Texans, they can get Boutte up to speed and everything will kind of click there. But yeah, I still like the Texans a lot, Derek, but not a great start for them.
No, not great, and we'll see what happens. There's a ton of pressure on CJ Stroud, but I like the pivot to get another wide receiver out there, a guy that proved himself last season. I want to see where he stands. I mean, that receiving core is going to be dictated by Nico Collins, but it's all contingent on what CJ Stroud does at quarterback. Let's do our Just Your Divisions, man, our division preview. Last time we did the AFC North. Tonight we'll do the NFC North. And, of course, this division was won last year by the Chicago Bears, 11-6 record. They won the division for the first time since 2018. Their playoff success, they had a huge comeback victory against the Green Bay Packers, but lost to the LA Rams in a very exciting game that went into overtime. Caleb Williams proving himself in year 2 with Ben Johnson as the head coach. This offseason, they lost Jaquan Brisker. They lost Kevin Byard. They lost Nashawn Wright. So a lot of guys in their secondary. They traded away DJ Moore, who I wouldn't say was their number one go-to wide receiver, but was part of the trade a couple of years ago when they traded away the first overall pick. So he was a good option for them, but really didn't fit in with Ben Johnson's scheme. They added Kobe Bryant, but unfortunately he's going to be out for the majority of the season, out 4 to 6 months with a knee injury. They got Devin Bush, the linebacker. They picked up Khalif Raymond, who Ben Johnson worked with once upon a time with the Detroit Lions. And they drafted a safety in the first round, Dylan Thieneman from Oregon. Ben Johnson's been very outspoken this offseason, too. He's one of these guys that are going to be a good soundbite in the NFL. He proved himself with the Detroit Lions and their high-flying offense, and we saw his play-calling skills in the first year as head coach of the Chicago Bears. Ben Johnson said that he wants to score the most points in NFL history. He also loves Luther Burden, the guy that they drafted last season. He's dealing with a groin injury right now. But my biggest question mark for the Bears, and it's something that Ben Johnson even brought up when he was responding to Liam Cohen, saying, like, all I see this offseason is a million pictures of Caleb Williams on NFL.com. He acknowledged it. We're picked to be the number one regression story in the NFL. And I don't disagree with that. Because you look at the one-score games they had a season ago, they were 7-4 in one-score games. And history will tell you that flips the next year. You and I saw with the 2016 Oakland Raiders. They won a lot of one-score games. The next year, they were bad. We saw with the 2022 Minnesota Vikings. Won a ton of one-score games. The next year, not the same thing. And also Kirk Cousins tore his Achilles that year. Saw with the Kansas City Chiefs a couple years ago, going 15-2. A ton of one-score game wins. And that last year, not the same. And injuries played a factor in that as well. I don't love their defense. I don't love their lack of pass rush. I don't love the injury they already sustained with Kobe Bryant. I think they have a good running game with DeAndre Swift, but he's not a true number one. Same thing with Kyle Monangai. They have good tight ends. I do like Colston Loveland. They're probably going to lose Cole Kmet in the offseason. That's why they drafted another guy. I don't know if they have a lot of wide receiver depth. And I got to see more from Caleb Williams than just one season. He's going to be on the cover of Madden, and we know the Madden curse sometimes. So I think Ben Johnson, while I do trust him as a head coach, I think he's on the money there with acknowledging to everyone that they might be the number one regression candidate.
He might be signaling that not just that there's credence to that regression storyline possibly coming to fruition, but that their defense gave up almost 25 points a game last year and they scored about 26 points a game. There's not much margin for error there, Derek. And, great in 1-score games, 7-4. Like you said, that's similar to interceptions or turnovers. That's a very fickle thing that can flip season to season. So I worry about their defense. They've lost, I think, everybody in their secondary who had multiple takeaways, they lost. Whether it's Kevin Byard, Nashawn Wright, like they've lost guys. And now they did get Dylan Thieneman, like you said, from Oregon. He'll probably start as a safety from day one. But this defense wasn't good last year, and it's looking like it's worse on paper this year. Offensively, I like Roma Dunze. I like Luther Burden as well. Like, I think those are two good receivers. Loveland, I think, is a good tight end. Swift is good in today's NFL. He can be a starting running back, so he is. But they are a regression candidate. I think the Bush signing, that doesn't really help them either. I don't think that makes them incredibly better on defense. I'm just looking at their starting 11 on both sides of the ball, and it's just not great. So if they're going to win a lot of games, if they're going to replicate what they did last season, it's going to all be on Caleb Williams. And I just don't think the defense is there to support it this year. And he might actually have a bit of a regression because of the lack of help that he has around him. I just don't think that they have a good enough offensive line yet. I know they did get a new center, but I don't think they're there yet. They kind of overperformed last year. Let's put it that way.
No, I'm with you on that one. And I know a lot of people are having them in Super Bowl contention this year. I don't see that. I think there's other two teams in this division that I'm more high on than the Chicago Bears. Real quick, Crackerjack, who's joined the chat in recent weeks, says, "Can Derek pretend to be in my fantasy league?" I mean,
how do you pretend to do that? Like,
yeah, I'm not sure what that means, but Crackerjack also says, I need a sleepers. Dude, I'll give you fantasy advice. We could definitely do that during the season, but I don't need to pretend to be in your fantasy league there. But I'll definitely give you some pointers as much as I can. Given that I've won the KBR league 3 out of 4 years, but that may be more on the guys playing fantasy at KBR, more baseball guys, I'd say.
I don't know. You're a pretty good fantasy player, Derek.
I appreciate that. I'm not like crazy about it. I'm in 3 this year. But yeah, I think I know my shit. I try to be. Okay. Everyone says I'm like a fanboy of this team, the Green Bay Packers. And it's because I love Jordan Love. I watched him a couple years ago against the Dallas Cowboys. I thought this is going to be the next great superstar in the NFL. And he's disappointed me the last 2 years. So last year, 9-7-1, they lost 5 straight games to end the season. They had a lot of hype going into the year, training for Micah Parsons. I thought it was going to be a different year. They looked like juggernauts the first 2 weeks of the season, beating the Detroit Lions and the Washington Commanders. And then injuries just played a factor. They lost Jaden Reed for a good deal of time. They lost Christian Watson, Micah Parsons, and probably their best player on offense, in my opinion, Tucker Kraft, tore their ACLs. That's what led to them. I thought they were going to be a team that would sneak into the playoffs. If they had Parsons, if they had Tucker Kraft, they would do some damage with that defense. Not the case. They blew that lead to the Chicago Bears. So this offseason, Jeff Hafley leaves to go be the head coach of the Miami Dolphins. They bring in Jonathan Gannon. He's named defensive coordinator. There's a lot of talk about Matt LaFleur being fired. I never thought that was the case. They give him a new contract. They trust him. I think he's one of the better play callers in all of football. They add, and they don't have 2 first-round picks for the next 2 years because of Micah Parsons. They add Zaire Franklin. They add Benjamin St-Juste from the Chargers. They add Sky Moore to add that receiving core, and that rhymes. They add Javon Hargrave. They lose Romeo Doubs, who was a solid wide receiver to them, but not a dynamic playmaker. They lost Rashawn Gary because they brought in Micah Parsons. They can't pay him long-term. They trade away Dotavion Wicks. He goes to the Green Bay Packers. So, not a lot of additions this offseason for the Green Bay Packers, My biggest questions for them are, can Jordan Love play like the QB some people expect him to be? Mainly me. Like, I put a lot on Jordan Love, and there's times last year where he looked good, and there were times last year I was like, what the fuck are you doing? There was that one interception he threw against the Carolina Panthers where I was like, dude, what was that? Can Micah Parsons, come back at the same level to make them contenders? I think if they're healthy, I think this team on paper, and I thought it was the case last year, if they stay healthy, they could compete with a lot of good teams in the NFC. So if Parsons comes back, maybe week 5, week 6, and he's the same Micah Parsons of old, I think they can contend. I think that Jordan Love needs to take the training wheels off a little bit and he needs to be a little more aggressive in the offense.
Yeah, I want to see more from Jordan Love. I definitely want to see, they still have Kraft, they have Watson and Golden. Josh Jacobs is still a question mark. That is still a question mark. The Packers said, they are they're not surprised for life without him if there's a suspension. Let's put it that way. It's something. Yeah,
Brian Kudikas, their GM, said that today, that they're anticipating a suspension for Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, which is a major gut punch for them because he's an important part of their team, is an important part of their offense. But I do like the addition of Jonathan Gannon as a DC. I think Gannon has shown. So most people are probably going to think about his years with Arizona. I wouldn't judge him too much on that. Look at what he did with Philly instead. I mean, he was good there. And even there were some bright spots for his Arizona defenses as well. Like they were okay in points. They were okay in yards occasionally. So it wasn't a total dumpster fire, even though the Cardinals are not very good. But Green Bay, I like their team. What I don't like is when Parsons comes back, while he's gone, rather, can they win games? Because they didn't win a single game without him last year. When he left,
right.
When he got injured, they were 0-5. So they were not, I think that's true. They were not able to win without Micah Parsons. So if it's going to be a period of 3 to 6 weeks without him to start the season, if he's that big of a factor on that team, they're going to need to figure out a way to win without Micah Parsons because that's an issue. And he's he's one of the best defensive players in the league. And I think he's got support over there now. And I think everybody is pretty comfortable. And with the DC who's runs a 3-4, I think that's actually really good for Parsons. And I think it's great for Javon Hargrave, who's going to be able to eat in the middle as well. My big question for them is, what do they look like without Micah? And what do they look like without Josh Jacobs? I think Love will do better. I still want to see him do better. I want to see him be more of that take over the game kind of guy because I think he does have that talent. But without Parsons and without Jacobs for any portion of the season, how does this team win? Because we've seen what they look like without Parsons, not very good last year. And I think this team, even though Love is probably the most important offensive player, Josh Jacobs, the offense kind of does run through him. When he's doing well, the rest of the offense is doing well.
Yeah, but he also showed that he's not the same running back a year ago, a little more slower last year. And if he is suspended, I never want to play this game, but if I had anticipate, I would say it's a couple games given all the details that went into his arrest. Marshawn Lloyd is a running back that's been talked up for quite some time with the Packers that came from USC. They might use him more in his absence, Josh Jacobs. And Tucker Kraft coming back from an ACL. It sounds like he's good to go. He's anticipating he's going to get a contract this offseason too, so we'll see when that happens. You brought up a good point, though, Alon. They didn't win a game without Micah Parsons last year. Their schedule, though, they're on the road against the Vikings week 1, new quarterback. They're on the road against the Jets. It's the Jets. They play the Atlanta Falcons at home. They go to Tampa. They are home against the Chicago Bears. In week 6, they're home against the Cowboys. That's the anticipation of how long Micah Parsons could be out. You got to win some games. And I think that they're going to make some additions when it comes to the pass rush. Hassan Reddick is a name that's still available and has been connected to Jonathan Gannon for a while. Not to mention Josh Sweat, who wants the hell out of Arizona. He just signed a contract with them. Wouldn't be the least bit surprised if they make a deal. There's been a rumor with Josh Sweat coming to the Green Bay Packers, if they could do it for obviously lower draft compensation when they gave up a lot to get Micah Parsons. Moving on here in the NFC North preview. This team finishing last is just a shocker to me. And them not making the playoffs is still a shocker to me. I still think they're one of the best offenses in all of football. The Detroit Lions, they finished 4th in this division. They had offensive issues with their O-line. Guys couldn't stay healthy. Jared Goff was getting pressured constantly, made him uncomfortable. Jared Goff, I will say, really good quarterback, but everything needs to be perfect around him in order for him to have success. So they bring in Johnny Morton when Ben Johnson came over as head coach of the Chicago Bears. He is let go. They bring in Drew Petzing, who I was surprised about, but after sitting on it and listening to other people talk about him, he fits the offense and what they're trying to do. More tight end play, get the ball to Sam Laporta, get the ball to Brock Wright. They want a 3 tight end scheme, and he's the guy that had Trey McBride had an unbelievable season a year ago. Like when you hear Arizona Cardinals offense, you're like, that's not saying a lot, but it sounds like he's a guy that's well respected across football. So they bring him in as offensive coordinator. They add Isaiah Pacheco. They add DJ Wanham from the Carolina Panthers. Greg Dortch, who was with Drew Petzing in Arizona, comes over as a slot receiver. They lose David Montgomery. They trade him to the Houston Texans. Taylor Decker is released off of their offensive line. They're moving Penei Sewell to left tackle, and they draft Blake Miller from Clemson to play right tackle. They finally drafted a pass rusher opposite Aiden Hutchinson with David Moore from Michigan. My biggest question mark with the Detroit Lions, they should be a bounce-back team. They finished 4th. They're going to have an easy-ass schedule. They should dominate once again. But my biggest question mark with them is, can this offense get back to being one of the most explosive units in the NFL? And if they stay healthy, can they be Super Bowl contenders one more time? Because they were that team that had the 49ers on the ropes. In 2023, I thought that Dan Campbell just was crazy that day, going for it on 4th down, not kicking field goals. He lost in the NFC Championship game. He did. And then the injuries just caught up with them the year they went 15-2 and won the division and were the number 1 seed in the NFC. Can they be that team again with the easy schedule they have and hopefully staying healthy this year?
Yeah, their schedule is not bad. Their division is the toughest part about their schedule. So that's usually the case for most teams. But when your team is talented as the Lions, that's not that daunting. Now, they do have a new offensive coordinator. You mentioned Drew Petzing. I actually think that's going to work. And I like how you kind of tempered it with, yeah, you think of Arizona, it's like, oh, that's not so great. But he's trying to run that offense with Kyler Murray was just not going to happen. It wasn't working. So I think they're going to get back to more of that big play action heavy kind of stuff that Jared Goff is really good at. So I think that's going to be good for him. There's no way this line can be as bad as it was last year. I just don't think that's possible. They were almost the worst in the league when it came to pass protection, right? So they gave, in terms of their win rate, and Goff got sacked damn near 40 times. So really, really tough for Goff. I like what you said. He's a really good quarterback, but if he's not kept clean and upright, it's really rough for him. So I think heavy dose of play action is going to help. I think Jahmyr Gibbs with his new contract is going to have a career year. So I think he's going to be a big part of that. I guess my biggest question with them is not, will they be better? Will they get back to normal? Will they be able to reach that same level of success offensively that they had with Ben Johnson? Because I think they can do it. I think they still have the talent to do it. I think they have the quarterback to do it. And I think the defense is still really good. I just want to know, are they that 15-2 type team again? Are they that damn good again, where it's like the only reason they're not in the Super Bowl is because they threw it, because Dan Campbell sold. That's the only reason they didn't go to the Super Bowl. So I just want to know, can this team, are they elite? Are they a contender or are they elite? Because they were elite for about a year or 2 years maybe. And now they're kind of back into that contender dark horse territory. But the team really hasn't changed that much, Derek. It's almost the same team.
And it shouldn't have changed because they still, they went 9-8.
Yeah.
And they finished 4th in the division. And if they just shore up their offensive line and guys stay healthy, there's no excuse. This team should be the highest scoring team in all of football. Like Ben Johnson talks about, he wants to score the most points in NFL history. That should be the Detroit Lions. I think their play calling has been so creative over the years. not to mention their playmakers and Jahmyr Gibbs and Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamison Williams, Sam Laporta, who practiced for the first time in a while today. Yeah, there's no excuses. Their schedule is very easy. They should be the team that we saw a couple years ago that had the 49ers on the ropes. They should be the team that we saw went 15-2. There's no excuse. I don't see why they shouldn't be one of the better teams in the NFC this year. And then there's the Minnesota Vikings that went 9-8, but had major quarterback problems. And J.J. McCarthy did not look good at all last season. Now, he did lead the Vikings to a 6-4 record and played better down the stretch, but that's when they were out of it. And it's already cemented. He's going to be the backup quarterback this year. He was benched for Kyler Murray. If you watched the preseason game a week ago, there's a fourth down play. He has a wide receiver wide open. He just misses him. And I thought that they were going to keep J.J. McCarthy. It sounds like J.J. and Carson Wentz have been splitting second-team reps at practice. And I wouldn't be the least bit surprised that this last preseason game is a battle between J.J. and Carson Wentz on who's going to be the backup quarterback. And we brought up the Chargers with Aiden O'Connell. I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if Jim Harbaugh is like, let me get my old quarterback back to back up Justin Herbert. Wouldn't be surprised on that one. Yeah. But as far as the Vikings, everything else is good for them. Honestly, they have a loaded roster. It's just the quarterback play. So they added Juwan Jennings this offseason and go with their receiving core of Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. They lost Jalen Naylor. That's fine. He goes to the Raiders. They replace him with Juwan Jennings. They draft Caleb Banks from Florida, who dealt with injury problems but should be a good pass rushing defensive tackle. Kind of like the Lions, they kept everything intact when it came to their roster. They just knew that they could run it back and, improve upon the quarterback play. Get the best quarterback available in the offseason and give him a, vet minimum deal for him to prove it this year. He's making so much money with the Arizona Cardinals from what that contract they did years ago. Give him the basic contract of $1 million, have him prove it this year. So Kyler Murray's got to be hungry for it. I still don't know if he's going to fit in a Kevin O'Connell offense. So my biggest question mark is, can Kyler Murray rejuvenate his career? And if he can, what happens to J.J. McCarthy? And maybe that question is answered even before we get to the regular season. But it really is all contingent on Kyler Murray, because I believe in Kevin O'Connell. I believe in Brian Flores. I don't know if I believe in the quarterback play.
Yeah, I hear you on that. What does the quarterback play look like? And that's always a huge question for most teams, but especially the Minnesota Vikings. To put this in perspective, the fact that they used a top 10 pick on a quarterback, a national championship winning quarterback, a good one, J.J. McCarthy from Michigan, who didn't have to pass the ball a whole hell of a lot when he was at Michigan, but that's the system they ran. He gets injured, and then his real rookie season does not look great, and the underlying metrics are not very good. So bad that they have to go out and bring Kyler Murray in on a one-year deal. And when you do that, we kind of instantly knew, Derek, that there was not going to be a competition between those two guys. You weren't bringing in Kyler Murray just to sit him and be a backup. That didn't make any sense. So Kyler Murray is going to play. But Kyler is not exactly the best quarterback either in the league. Now, he does have some really great skills and great tools that he has shown in moments in Arizona, and maybe a lot of that has just been being in Arizona. So maybe this could be a situation for the Vikings again, like when they had Kirk Cousins. All they needed was a decent quarterback, and all of a sudden they're pretty damn good. So maybe Kyler Murray can be that guy for them. But I think a lot of it's going to be on the rushing attack. I think that they need to support Kyler Murray with the running game. And these teams for Minnesota have not been the most prolific running teams. And maybe that's because of the wide receivers they have, because of Jefferson, Addison, and now adding Juwan Jennings, who I think is a big upgrade over Jalen Naylor. So yeah, you want to air it, and TJ Hawkinson. I can't forget about him either. So yeah, you want to air it out with those weapons for sure. But they need some semblance of a good running game, I think, because if Kyler Murray is going to take this thing and be a really good player for them, he's going to need to be supported by a run game, because we've seen that it's difficult for him to carry everything by himself. So right. I think that's the question for them. For me is, can they support Kyler Murray so Kyler's not running around for his life, but his protection should be fine, but also number two, not throwing the ball, say 35 times a game. for me, a perfect world with Kyler Murray is he has some great scrambles, some great boots, some really nice play actions, and then maybe 25 to 30 passes.
Yeah. And that is the NFC North. Maybe one of the more competitive divisions in all of football this season, I would believe. I think all these teams are capable of going to the playoffs. And I think that I could see contenders in the Lions and the Packers. There's expectations with the Chicago Bears, and the Minnesota Vikings are a huge question mark, but people, value the talent they have and the coaching staff they have as well. Switching over to college football real quick, Alon. I want to get your thoughts on this because this has been a big topic of conversation the last few days. College athletes that declare for the NFL are in NFL training camps, and then they don't make the team, they get cut, and then they could go back with their eligibility and go back and play in college football. So I want to ask you all the details on this stuff because I know there's been injunctions, and I watched a little bit of Lane Kiffin's interview with Pat McAfee. The 5-for-5 stuff is still kind of something I'm not fully grasping here, but just a reaction to what happened the other day while, it was in the news. A player for the Cleveland Browns, is it Daquan Wright? Yeah, Daquan Wright, the tight end. He was cut and had a deal in place. As soon as he was going to hit waivers, he was going to be eligible to go back to college. So he played with Ole Miss back in the day with Lane Kiffin, and he was going to sign with LSU. Then, a couple days later, Dan Lanning spoke out about this, saying he doesn't agree with this. If you get a agent and if you declare for the NFL, you should not be allowed to go back to college football. The Big Ten had a unanimous vote declaring that players that declare for the NFL, NBA, and WNBA cannot go back to college athletics. And then the SEC did the exact same thing, just the right verbiage here. They're not allowing players who declared for the NFL, NBA, or WNBA. They cannot go back, and they cannot do so. They cannot appropriately withdraw. So, just your thoughts on this, Alon, because this has been a big talking point in college football the last few days.
The fact that this is even a thing now, is it directly related to NIL? Not directly, but it's adjacent, right? So, Daquan Wright, good example.
Yeah.
Not going to make an NFL roster. He can go make some money in college, though, still. And he still has some eligibility. So what does he do? He tries to go back, gets basically a judge's court order that says you can go do that, and that's what they're going to do. But then the Big Ten and the SEC and the Big 12 come out and then say, well, we're banning NFL players from returning to college. But what exactly does that mean? Does that mean that you have to be an NFL? Like, does that mean you have to have played a year in the NFL and not come back? Or are you an NFL player as soon as you are signed or drafted? So that's the other question. There's going to be all kinds of legalese kind of stuff around that. The crazy thing is, and I know the Big Ten and the SEC kind of been out on the forefront of this, Alabama basketball team had a player last year who came from the G League, who was a G League player and then came back. So I don't really understand what is happening now when it comes to college athletics. It is becoming its own professional league. The organizations themselves, the universities themselves tend to have more money than, well, not all of them, but they have a ton of money, and they could have more money than NFL teams do, right? So I think the more that we do this, with every Daquan Wright story, every story of someone saying, Dante Moore, for instance, not unheard of to forego getting drafted by the Jets and staying in college.
Yeah.
But when you're going to make millions of dollars at Oregon and not go to the Jets, right? You're going to take that every day of the week. It makes the decision so much easier. So I think with the money that these guys make now in college and the situations that they're in and looking at, well, maybe I'm not good enough to be in the NFL now, so I'll wait, or maybe I don't want to go to that organization, or maybe I want to go back to college. I think we're just going to keep seeing this. And if anything, it shows how toothless the NCAA is, because the NCAA does not like this at all, because this is further professionalizing collegiate athletics. but they can't do a darn thing about it. So what's happening? It's the conferences that are coming out and making their own rules regarding it. By the way, the ACC still hasn't come up with an answer yet. They're still technically reviewing whether they want to let NFL players play in their conference or not. So how does that even work? What if an ACC team plays a Big Ten team and the ACC team, Bill Belichick, goes, I'm going to have some former New England Patriots on my UNC team because a few of them only played for 2 years in college. They have eligibility. So, I mean, it's just a joke. And then you brought up the 5-and-5 thing, Derek. So that clock starts either after your 18th birthday or when your first year of eligibility, when you graduate high school to play collegiate athletics starts. Okay. And then the clock starts, you have 5 years, one way or the other. But man, dude, the collegiate athletics are becoming professional athletics. That's kind of the short version of the story.
Yeah. And I don't know how I feel about it, to be honest. Like, okay, just to answer this question for me, Alon, Daquan Wright, is he still eligible to play for LSU, or that's out the window now?
No, he's eligible. He's eligible to be on their roster. So I don't know how that.
So everything that took place before they approved this vote with the SEC, the guys that were able to do that are just grandfathered in at this point.
Yes. So this is it's so weird, right? So he's eligible to return to college football for a 5th year because of the court injunction, right?
Yeah.
And he has basically a NFL waiver. So he cleared NFL waivers and reached the agreement to join LSU. So he has individual eligibility, but the conference, the SEC itself, voted unanimously to bar players who have signed NFL contracts from returning to play in the conference. So he's there, but then the SEC is now saying, we don't want him to play. So as of now, I would say my interpretation is that the court injunction weighs heavier than what the SEC says. So he's probably eligible to go and play, but the SEC is going to fight tooth and nail to not allow him to play. So we don't know. I guess if there had to be an answer now, like let's say Ole Miss played right now, he's probably on their roster, Derek.
Okay. Yeah, the whole thing is just kind of a weird, fucked up deal.
It's convoluted.
Yeah. I heard Lane Kiffin talk about this on McAfee, that he agrees with Dan Lanning and a lot of coaches out there that he doesn't want NFL players playing in college athletics. But also, he wants to give an opportunity for guys that want to do this. And he's talking on both sides of his mouth, really. Like, they asked him, like, do you like being the villain? Like, are you just saying that you're a victim of circumstance where these are the rules and I'm going to, win football games by any means necessary? And he's like, yeah, I guess you could say that. I mean, like, in his words, he said, when you're the hero of something, you're not that far away from being the villain as well. So I really don't know what the hell he's talking about there, but it's almost like the line from The Dark Knight, The Dark Knight with Two-Face, Harvey Dent. If you're the hero for a long time, you'll be around long enough to see yourself become the villain. Something like that. Like, I'm not gonna act like I comprehend every single thing with this. It's just convoluted and too complicated for me when it comes to injunctions and legal mumbo jumbo when it comes to sports. The bottom line here is when it comes to college football, I'd rather talk about who's going to win the SEC or Alabama's starting quarterback for this year that was just named, I think, earlier this week. Can Texas contend? Arch Manning. We have these conversations in the NFL. When it comes to college football, it's off the field bullshit. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't blame Daquan Wright or Lane Kiffin for doing this, but I don't like the rules in place where it allows players that have declared for the NFL and been on NFL practice squads or teams the ability to come back and play at the collegiate level. I think that's insane. I think that once you cross that threshold or whatever terminology, whatever you want to use, once you choose to be an NFL player, that's it for you. You can't pull a Rodney Dangerfield to go back to school.
Yeah, no, I like that. Great reference to love that movie. And I love Sam Kinison as the history teacher or whatever. He's amazing. But yeah, it's convoluted. It doesn't make sense. In one aspect, you have a player who's eligible to return, but then the conference is saying, no, we're going to try to bar him from playing. So then you're in this weird limbo. It just none of it makes sense. And I agree with you, Derek, because I don't think you should be able to go professional and then sign a contract and then be like, actually, I want to go back to college. And it's just like, no, that's not how this works. And I don't blame him for taking advantage of the system the way it is right now. I don't blame him at all. Go get your money, go get you more time, whatever it is, use the tools that are available to you. But if this gets to a point where guys are like, well, I don't like where I was drafted, or where I don't like what team I got drafted to, or whatever the case is, and then they don't sign their tenders, right? And then they're like, I'm going back to college. Think about the chaos that would create. It'd be horrible.
Right. Yeah, so we'll see where this goes, but I think that college football is in a bad spot right now with this loophole that a lot of coaches are taking advantage of, and, players as well. Okay, Ernie one calling me out here saying I butchered it. Okay, I think it's where you either die. Okay, hold on. No. Hold on. I think I got it. You either die the hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. Is that it from Dark Knight?
You either die a hero or live long enough to become a villain. Yeah, you got it.
There you go. All right, I got it. I found it somewhere deep inside me when it comes to old Batman quotes.
Become the villain. Yeah. You nailed it, Derek.
There you go, Ernie one. All right, real quick, I brought up Alabama's quarterback. You happy with the decision? I know was he on the roster last year?
Who are you talking about?
The starting quarterback for Alabama now.
Oh, Keelan Russell. Yeah. So I'm very happy about that. Yeah, he just hasn't been able to play. Well, I shouldn't say that. He has not played because it was either Austin Mack or Ty Simpson.
Yeah,
but yeah. Keelan Russell's been waiting in the wings for a while, so I'm excited about that. I think it's great. I was very worried that they were going to let someone else be the starter and not him, because if I was him and that happened, I'd be like, "See ya, I'm leaving," because he deserves to play. So excited about that for sure. And yeah, so I'm excited.
All right, as you should be. All right, last one, Alon, for you. Who do you think has more of an impact? Which former Warrior has more of an impact on their new team? Klay Thompson with the Miami Heat or Jonathan Kuminga with the Minnesota Timberwolves?
More of an impact, I think Klay Thompson, because he needs to have more of an impact. I think Kuminga is a nice piece for Minnesota, and it's a pretty good situation to be in. But I like Klay Thompson. They need shooting. What did we say about Miami after the Giannis move? They need shooting. So they got shooting now.
Is Klay Thompson going to start, though, over Tim Hardaway Jr.?
Ooh, Tim Hardaway Jr. doesn't score, though.
I know. I think it's going to be where Klay's the starter and Tim Hardaway comes off the bench.
Yeah.
And we were talking about today, like me and Danny Dunn, when the news broke that Jonathan Kuminga is joining the Minnesota Timberwolves. And that's ironic because you can argue that Kuminga had his best playoff performances, even though they were in losses, to the Minnesota Timberwolves. So they saw him firsthand.
Yeah.
Is he going to start with them? And you look at it. Yeah, he actually is, because you got LaMelo playing point. You got Anthony Edwards playing the 2. You're going to have my guy, Jaden McDaniels?
Yeah, I think that's his name, McDaniels.
Yeah. And then Kuminga plays the 4, and then you got Rudy Gobert playing the 5, obviously, and that guy, Ayo, that they traded for mid-season from the Chicago Bulls. He'll be their shooter off the bench. So Kuminga's got opportunities, but yeah, Klay Thompson, he was talking about today or a couple days ago when he was introduced as a Miami Heat, that, he's got championship experience, and he probably is the best shooter on the team. So yeah, they're going to use him a lot. I think that he actually will love playing for Pat Riley. He seems like that type of guy that would enjoy that, playing with Giannis as well. So that helps their shooting. When for Kuminga, he's more of an ISO player. He needs to rebound. He needs to play defense. But being a more ISO-centric type of player, I think that kind of fits with what Minnesota wants to do. So he may thrive with Minnesota. But I was texting my little brother, who is a Minnesota Timberwolves fan. Don't be too excited about Jonathan Kuminga if he's not getting the ball enough.
Yeah.
He's the type of guy, even though he's with Anthony Edwards, he could bitch and complain that Chris Finch is not giving him his minutes.
Yeah. He could do that. He could, because guess what? We saw him do it on the Warriors.
Exactly.
Hey, come on. It should be going through me sometimes. It's like, yeah, slow your roll there, buddy, because, we got Ant over here, or the situation in Golden State with Steph Curry is just like, no, that's not how this team is going to operate. If he does get to Minnesota, though, and he does rebound and he does run the court, which are things that he can do, then he could be a really nice piece for them. I will say this last thing about Klay Thompson. I hope that they put him in a situation where he is not tasked with defending the way that he used to, because I don't think he's capable of it anymore with his age and his mobility, but also I don't think that's what they need him for. I think they just need him for one thing, to be Ray Allen.
Yep. Absolutely. 100%.
Did you want to look at this that you sent me, Derek?
Oh, yeah. Since we were doing the NFC North preview, I forgot about this. They announced the NFL rivalry jerseys this year, and I don't think we need these many jerseys. Last year we talked about it. I think it was the NFC West and what was the other team that did it last year? It was the AFC East. Some of them were hit or miss. But yeah, since we did the NFC North, just going through it, these aren't terrible. I like some of these. I thought the Packers one looks pretty good. The Detroit Lions look like the Carolina Panthers a little bit. Chicago Bears, I hate their orange helmets.
Oof.
That's kind of a throwback to the early 2010s when they wore that style of jersey. The Vikings one just looks like the old school 90s Vikings, so that's good with me. The Jaguars ones are kind of weird. The Tennessee Titans, yeah, they're fine. The Houston Texans, I think that they're trying to do their own version of the Oilers with these jerseys.
Yeah.
And then lastly, the Colts, they're just wearing darker uniforms. So they're weird. This whole Nike rivalry thing is weird to me, but whatever. It's a one-off thing for every team.
I would say I really like the kind of Oilers-looking Texans uniform. I dig
those
that
are clean,
a lot. Yeah, I think that's pretty awesome. The Green Bay Packers one is not bad. It's just doesn't scream Packers to me. So maybe it is bad in a way, but it doesn't like horrible. Jacksonville kind of looks already close to what they usually do. I don't know about the orange pants though for the Bears.
I don't know if I love those. The Carolina, the Jacksonville Jaguars jerseys, they're fine. It kind of goes to the old school like Mark Brunell jerseys. The pants they're wearing though looks like what women wear like at a Zumba class.
Yes, no, they do
that leopard skin kind of leotard.
Yeah, the kind of like athleisure yoga pants.
Exactly.
Like tight pants.
The Packers jerseys, at least they're better than their meatpacking uniforms where they actually like have brown leather heads as helmets. I always thought that was weird. Yeah,
that was always pretty bad. And I kind of dig this little like Viking. I don't know what that is. This little detail here on the shoulder.
The little symbol they got there. It's not bad.
Yeah, it's kind of like a tribal tattoo on the jersey. So that's cool. All those guys are going to feel really tough. But
they will.
Thanks for sending that, Derek, because I saw this and I went, we've done it again, NFL. We just can't seem to figure out how to make everybody have a cool jersey. There's always some big misses. But I would say out of here, I think the Texans are the big hit.
I would say so. I think all of them look better than the Nickel City jerseys that the Buffalo Bills had.
Yes, those
are horrendous. Yeah. All right, everybody, that's it for tonight. Real quick. I want to announce this, and I know some of you guys already left the chat. It's been a long show tonight, but make sure you tell the other people that left early. We're going to have an interesting show coming up next week. So Alon and I will do a show on Sunday night around 5 o'clock to react to the final preseason games and the final cut downs. And then we're going to do some shows. We're still going to do, a preview of the AFC West and NFC West. Those will be part of our usual shows on Sunday and Wednesday. I think we're going to do, I'm off early for a lot of shows. And I know, Skills Report, Otis Bird, I'm glad you guys are still here. But I'm off early for quite a bit next week because the Giants are on the road. We won't have a show for Dirty Work on Monday because the Giants are playing at 2 o'clock. So, or maybe 3 o'clock, whatever it may be. John Lund's going to do the pregame show. So me and Copes are off that day. That night at 7:30, there will be Just Your Opinion Man special edition, a reunion episode me and Stephen Langford are going to do a show together, talk about everything that happened this offseason in the NFL, stuff that he wants to touch on, basketball we missed, Warriors, whatnot. So, yeah, Steven's back for one episode. He's coming back on Monday. Me and Steven doing a Just Your Opinion Man reunion show. We're going to do that at 7:30. I'll tell you guys again on Sunday. And we may have another interview lined up, but I'll wait for that one once it's official. But, yeah, some things are happening next week when it comes to Just Your Opinion, man. And when we get to the regular season, it will be more of a routine schedule every Tuesday and Saturday. Tuesday, we'll do a reaction show of the week that was in the NFL. Saturday, we'll do a preview show. But, yeah, next episode on Sunday, 5 o'clock, and Monday, 7:30, Stephen Langford and I doing a reunion show. So we'll see you guys for that. To everybody in the chat. And it's good to have you back, Alon, too, by the way. Missed you on the show Sunday. And again, condolences to the loss of your dog there.
Just a good pooch.
Yes. What? Sorry, the dog's name?
Aria.
Rest in peace to Aria.
Yep.
To everybody in the chat tonight. To Crackerjack. Thank you for joining the chat, my friend. To the Skills Report. To Otis Bird is the Word. To Rocket New Era, to Ernie One, to AJ Cruz, I saw for a little bit of time, Don Peralta. Is there anybody else that I'm missing as I look through the chat? I don't see any Tacky. I didn't see any Pat H. I guess not. Where's my guy Mac Van? Tell him to get his ass in the chat once again, guys. We'll see you guys on Sunday. And yeah. Alon, say what you always say, my friend.
I forget who it was in the chat who said whatever Jed York was wearing was similar to, probably what Derek and I wear around on the weekends when we're not working. But that's just your opinion, man. Fiends.